Welcome to Void Realities. Tonight, as you drift between waking and sleep, we open a door into the most fragile corners of the night. Some call them abduction dreams. Others speak of real alien encounters. And science explains them as sleep paralysis. But what truly happens when your body is frozen, your mind is awake, and the shadows around you begin to move? This is not just a story of fear, but of wonder. A journey into the science of sleep, the mysteries of memory, and the timeless human search for meaning in the dark. So let your breath slow, let your body rest, and allow your mind to wander gently. Because here, in the quiet of Void Realities, you are safe to explore the questions that keep you awake, and perhaps to finally fall asleep with the mystery. Abduction dreams, real alien encounters, or sleep paralysis. You lie down, and your body begins its slow surrender. The day loosens its grip, thought by thought, until you float in a space that is neither waking nor sleeping. This fragile in-between is where shadows grow tall and familiar shapes become uncertain. Your breath evens, your heart steadies, and your mind starts to wander in ways it never could when daylight keeps you tethered. Science gives this passage a name, the hypnagogic state. It is the borderland where your brain drifts from conscious control into dreamlike creation. In this state, images flicker, words dissolve, and sounds seem to rise from nowhere. The world outside the room still exists. Yet your mind begins weaving a new world within. You might see flashes of light or hear voices that are not there. These are not signs of madness, but the natural fireworks of a brain shifting gears. As your visual cortex cools from the brightness of the day, it generates brief illusions, sparks, faces, or drifting forms. They come and go like ripples across water. Your auditory system, no longer focused on the real hum of the room, begins to conjure whispers or distant music. What you perceive is not the outer world, but the inner canvas of your own mind. Cultures across history have given other names to this doorway. Ancient Greeks called these images phantasmata, spirits of the threshold. In medieval Europe, they were said to be the presence of angels or demons. In more recent times, people speak of visitors, beings who arrive when one is too weak to move. The scientific term feels steady and clinical, but the experience itself often feels vast, mysterious, and alive. Your body, meanwhile, is not passive. Muscles begin to soften as the brain releases signals to keep you still. This paralysis is protective, ensuring that your body does not act out the dreams soon to follow. It is gentle restraint, an invisible hand that keeps you safe. Yet, to the waking mind, that stillness can feel unsettling, as if someone else holds you in place. It is in this fragile state that fear can slip in. The dim light of the room may seem to thicken. A corner might hold a figure that was not there a moment ago. The feeling of weight on your chest, the sense of being watched, the certainty that something stands nearby. All of these can rise in the borderland of hypnagogia. The mind, seeking reason, creates shapes for these sensations. The shadows take form, and what was only the language of neurons becomes the story of a presence. This is not weakness or failure. It is the astonishing way the brain blends its inner workings with the echoes of its environment. You hear the creak of the house, and your brain paints it as a footstep. You sense the stillness of your body, and your mind interprets it as being held. Biology provides the canvas, and imagination paints the picture. The overlap between dream and waking is where stories are born. What begins as a flicker of nerves may be remembered as a visitation. What starts as a pressure in the chest may be recalled as an encounter. This is why, for centuries, people have spoken of being taken in the night, of beings arriving when sleep is shallow and shadows deep. Whether angels, demons, or visitors from other worlds, the story emerges from the same soil. the fertile borderland between sleep and shadow. As you lie in this space, you may notice how time itself seems to bend. Minutes feel like hours. A moment stretches long enough for a tale to unfold. This bending is part of the brain's transition. The clock ticks as always, but your perception loosens, letting you drift on a different current. What matters is not whether these moments are real in the outer sense, but how real they feel to you. The body speaks in sensations, the brain replies with images. The culture you live in supplies the names. The experience becomes a bridge between inner biology and outer meaning. You're not alone in this. Millions have felt the same weight, the same flickers, the same strange borderland. Their stories differ, but the foundation is shared. Some speak of fear, others of awe, and a few of quiet beauty. What unites them all is the fragile stillness of this threshold state, and as the shadows deepen, you sense that there is more to explore. Beyond this doorway lies not only the science of sleep, but also the mystery of paralysis, the weight of presence, and the history of what humanity has seen in the dark. You drift on the edge, held by stillness, where biology and story begin to merge. And soon, you will step deeper into the heavy quiet of sleep paralysis, where the body rests, but the mind awakens to its own haunting stage. You awaken, though not fully. The room is dim, silent, unchanged, yet something feels different. Your eyes flutter open, but your body remains still. A heavy weight presses down, invisible but undeniable, as though gravity has suddenly deepened. You try to move your hand, your chest, your lips. Nothing responds. The stillness is complete. This is sleep paralysis, a state where mind and body momentarily lose their rhythm. Your brain emerges from the depths of sleep faster than your body does. Normally, this transition is seamless. The dream dissolves, the muscles awaken, and the day begins. But when the body lags behind, you find yourself awake in awareness, yet anchored in immobility. Science names the process REM atonia. During rapid eye movement sleep, your body intentionally paralyzes itself to keep you safe. This paralysis prevents you from acting out dreams, from leaping as you run in a dream or striking as you fight. It is a shield, a quiet safeguard. But when you wake into this paralysis, the safety feels instead like a prison. You breathe, but even that feels uncertain. The chest rises shallowly, the weight on it exaggerated by fear. Each inhalation feels measured, fragile, as though borrowed. The body is functioning, but the mind misreads the signals, layering dread upon ordinary physiology. And in this silence, presence blooms. Many describe the sense that someone else is in the room. A shadow in the corner, a figure at the foot of the bed, a pressure leaning close. The brain, still half dreaming, projects shapes into the dark. Vision is unsteady, but fear sharpens it, pulling details from shadows. The figure seems to breathe with you, to lean nearer, to wait. You're not imagining this sense of dread. It is built into the nervous system. When paralyzed, your body registers vulnerability. The amygdala, the brain's alarm center, flares awake, releasing fear into the bloodstream. The darkness amplifies it. Evolution prepared you to feel unsafe when unable to move. For in ancient times, immobility could mean danger. The same system that once protected you now whispers panic into the night. Cultures across centuries have recognized this experience, though they gave it other names. In Northern Europe, it was the mare, a crushing spirit who sat upon the chest. In Japan, it was called kanashibari, bound by metal chains of the night. In Newfoundland, it was the old hag, a visitor who climbed onto sleeping bodies. Though the names change, the essence is the same: stillness, weight, and an unseen presence. Modern science unravels these myths with careful study. Researchers find that sleep paralysis affects about 8% of people regularly, and many more at least once in their lifetime. It is more common under stress, irregular sleep, or disrupted schedules. It can be linked to narcolepsy, but often it arises in otherwise healthy sleepers, a reminder of how delicate the balance between waking and dreaming can be. And yet, to explain does not dissolve the fear. Knowing about REM atonia may steady the mind, but in the moment, the body still trembles with the primal weight of immobility. Logic fades when you cannot move, when shadows seem to breathe. For some, this moment passes in seconds. For others, it stretches into long minutes. Time bends as though the clock slows to echo your trapped stillness. Eventually, movement returns. A finger twitches. The chest rises deeper. The spell breaks. Relief washes over you, but so does lingering unease. The memory of paralysis remains vivid, the imagined figure haunting even in daylight. Scientists believe that this state also explains certain abduction narratives, the sensation of floating, of being lifted from the bed, of presence, of paralysis. These mirror the reports of those who say they were taken. Whether one interprets it as biology or visitation depends on culture, belief, and expectation. The body provides the experience, the mind supplies the meaning. And so you lie there, heavy, half awake, the weight pressing both from within and from without. You are a witness to your own nervous system, caught between dream logic and waking reason. Sleep paralysis is not the enemy. It is simply the byproduct of protection misaligned with consciousness. Yet the fear it brings is real, stitched into the very fabric of your biology. Fear is not proof of danger. It is proof of sensitivity. Your body senses its own stillness and fills the silence with story. And in those stories, something persists. The sense of visitors, the figures that lean close, the shapes that countless sleepers across centuries have seen in their rooms. The weight of paralysis leaves not just a memory, but a question. As the heaviness lifts and breath steadies, you're left wondering, were these only shadows painted by your nervous system, or were they visitors waiting in the dark? A thought that leads deeper into the realm of night's imagined intruders. Night holds stories. Long before electricity softened the shadows, humans gathered around firelight, listening to tales of beings who moved unseen in the dark. The unknown has always leaned close when silence thickens. What you feel in the middle of the night, a breath on your skin, a shifting presence at the edge of vision, is the same unease that haunted our ancestors. They too felt watched, pressed upon, visited. In ancient cultures, the visitors took the form of spirits. In Mesopotamia, there were tales of demons who sat on the chest of sleepers, draining their strength. In medieval Europe, they were witches slipping through keyholes or incubus figures who pressed their weight into the night. The stories varied, but the pattern remained. Immobility, fear, a sensed intruder. Science now recognizes these as hallmarks of sleep paralysis, yet the experience remains ripe for interpretation. Your nervous system supplies the sensation, your culture supplies the mask. A modern sleeper may not imagine witches or demons, but rather beings from another world. Small gray figures with large black eyes, silhouettes that match the shared language of UFO lore. The shape changes, but the feeling persists. This blending of biology and culture explains why so many abduction accounts echo one another. A person awakens, frozen, sensing figures in the room. A bright light may flash, a floating sensation may follow. These are the textures of hypnagogic hallucination, vivid, real to the body, woven from brain states. Yet, once remembered, they are filtered through stories already known. The abductee remembers not just paralysis, but being taken aboard a craft, examined, returned. The narrative grows from seeds planted in the dark. The power of story is immense here. Your memory does not act like a recording device, but more like a sculptor. It shapes raw sensation into form, filling gaps with meaning. The cultural images surrounding you, tales of aliens in media, whispered accounts of encounters, offer ready-made shapes. When your mind seeks to explain the unexplainable, it borrows from these shapes. A shadow becomes a visitor. A presence becomes an abduction. Researchers have studied these patterns closely. Psychologists note that abduction reports often arise during periods of sleep disruption, stress, or trauma. They mirror the structure of sleep paralysis episodes but expand into elaborate journeys. Even so, the emotional reality remains profound. For the experiencer, it is not just a dream. It feels like intrusion, like being touched by something beyond control. That emotional weight cannot be dismissed by explanation alone. And perhaps that is why the stories persist, generation after generation. They carry something archetypal, the sense of being vulnerable in the dark, the fear of unseen forces, the awe of something larger than ourselves. Whether interpreted as demon, spirit, or alien, the visitor represents the same root experience, the human encounter with mystery. There is also wonder here. Not all who feel visited speak only of terror. Some describe moments of peace, of being guided, of feeling chosen. In these cases, the paralysis is reframed as connection, the presence seen not as a predator but as a teacher. The same biology gives rise to different meanings, colored by expectation and interpretation. Science invites you to see the universality beneath the differences. Across cultures, across time, the night visitor appears. The details change. The clothing of myth shifts, but the structure remains constant. A body still, a mind awake, a presence near. What changes is the story you tell yourself afterward. You might ask, if the science explains so much, why do the visitors still feel real? Because reality is not only what can be measured, it is also what is felt. A racing heart, a heavy chest, a shadow moving closer. These sensations are real in the body, undeniable in the moment. The meaning assigned to them is where mystery enters. And so, as you rest in the dark, you share in a lineage stretching back thousands of years. You too feel what others once felt, in huts, in castles, in quiet farmhouses. They too told stories of visitors. Your science explains the mechanics, their myths explain the meaning. Both belong to the same human search, to find sense in the night. As the visitors fade back into shadow, you are left not only with the memory of presence, but with the deeper question of memory itself. How the mind takes raw sensation and sculpts it into story, a path leading toward the mysteries of recollection and belief. Memory feels like solid ground, yet it is more like water. You believe you can return to the exact image of a moment, the shape of a room, the sound of a voice, the feel of a presence. But when you step into that memory, it ripples and shifts. Your brain is not a recorder, it is a storyteller. Each time you recall, you rebuild, stitching fragments together with threads of imagination. This is why recollections of night visitors or abductions carry both vividness and uncertainty. The fear is real, the bodily sensations undeniable, but the details grow with each retelling. When you awaken from paralysis, your mind holds a blur of images, a shadow, a flash, a feeling. Later, in the quiet of reflection, the brain reaches for coherence. It draws on cultural scripts, filling the gaps with what makes sense. A figure, a light, a craft. Scientists have long studied this weaving of memory. Experiments show how easily suggestion can alter recollection. When someone is asked leading questions, "Did you see the man with the hat?" they may soon believe they truly saw him, even if he never existed. Hypnosis deepens this vulnerability. A person searching for answers to their strange night experiences may be guided into imagining details that later feel like truth. A blur becomes a clear face. A pressure becomes an abduction. The mind, eager for story, transforms sensation into narrative. This does not mean the experiences are meaningless. On the contrary, they reveal how memory and identity are bound. Each memory you hold, whether sharp or distorted, becomes part of who you believe yourself to be. To recall a visitor in the night is to carry that presence into your waking life. The memory shapes your sense of safety, your beliefs about the world, even your place in the cosmos. Consider trauma. When the body feels threatened, the brain lays down strong emotional markers. These markers make memories more intense, but not necessarily more accurate. A car crash may be remembered as slower than it was. A figure in the dark may seem closer, larger, more detailed than reality. The fear amplifies the imprint, but it does not guarantee clarity. What you recall is not the event itself, but the emotional shadow it left behind. Culture also steers memory. A medieval sleeper might remember the devil sitting on their chest. A modern one might remember gray beings from the stars. The nervous system generates the experience, but the culture provides the language. Memory is not formed in isolation. It borrows from the images, stories, and myths surrounding you. The more these stories circulate, the more they guide what details you later believe you saw. Neuroscientists explain this as reconstructive memory. Each recall is like repainting a canvas. You preserve some original strokes, but you also add new ones, or sometimes without realizing. Over time, the painting evolves. What you feel is a fixed picture is, in truth, a living process. And yet to dismiss these memories as only illusions misses something important. The lived reality of fear, awe, or wonder matters. The trembling body, the vivid sensations, the certainty of presence, these leave marks on the psyche. Even if the figures were shaped by suggestion, the emotions they carried are as real as any waking moment. To the mind, felt reality carries weight equal to observed reality. This is why stories of abduction endure with such power. They are not simply about what happened in the night, but about how memory makes meaning. A person who believes they were visited carries that story like a scar or a gift. It informs their worldview, their sense of vulnerability or chosenness. Memory here is not just a record, but a foundation. As you rest, you might reflect on your own memories. Think of a childhood moment you recall often. Notice how it has likely changed over time. Perhaps you once remembered a toy vividly, then later added the color of the walls, the sound of your parents' voice. The memory grew not because it was recorded, but because it was rebuilt. So too with night terrors, paralysis, and abductions. They live on through reconstruction, shaped by fear and retelling. And in that reconstruction lies mystery. If memory is a story, then who is the author? You, your culture, your nervous system, or all three at once? Perhaps memory itself is a collaboration, a weaving between biology and meaning. And as you drift deeper, you sense how fragile your memories truly are, and how even the most haunting recollections can bend and shift, carrying you onward into the realm where body and cosmos meet, in the science of night terrors and the stars. The night can hold two immensities at once, the inner storms of the human mind and the vast silence of the sky above. To lie in bed is to rest beneath both, your nervous system pulsing within, the stars glowing far beyond. It is here that night terrors and cosmic wonder meet, both shaping how you experience the darkness. Night terrors differ from ordinary nightmares. They emerge not in the vivid theater of REM sleep, but deep in the heavy, dreamless stages of non-REM sleep. In these depths, the brain is meant to be quiet, restorative, releasing its grip on conscious thought. Yet sometimes, alarms hidden in the nervous system ignite suddenly. The sleeper may sit upright, eyes wide, body shaking, heart racing, but remain trapped in confusion, not fully awake. To an observer, the terror is visible, To the sufferer, it is overwhelming and beyond reason. Children are more prone to night terrors. Their nervous systems are still learning the delicate rhythm between deep sleep and wakefulness. In adults, they are rarer, but often tied to stress, exhaustion, or trauma. Unlike dreams, which can be recalled and narrated, night terrors often leave no memory, only fragments of fear, a pounding chest, or a partner's worried face in the morning. Science explains these events as misfires in the sleep cycle. Imagine a switchboard in your brain. One set of circuits powers wakefulness, another governs sleep. In night terrors, these circuits overlap briefly, leaving the body in panic while the conscious mind remains locked away. The result is a storm without a story, pure fear unanchored to images. And yet, in the dark of night, fear rarely stays empty. The mind seeks shape. The pounding heart, the sudden cry, the flash of half-seen movement, these become raw material for memory and myth. The nervous system provides the spark. The imagination provides the figure. Over centuries, people have understood these terrors as attacks from outside forces. Spirits pressing in, demons visiting, even cosmic beings intruding from the stars. Why the stars? Because when humans look upward, we see not only light, but also reflection. The night sky is a mirror for our fears and hopes. Where there is silence, we project story. The same instinct that fills shadows with visitors also fills constellations with gods and galaxies with watchers. Night terrors, heavy with dread, find easy companions in the cosmos above. Consider how often abduction accounts intertwine with night terrors. A person wakes with no memory, but a residue of panic. They search for meaning, and the culture offers one. Perhaps it was not only fear, but a visitation. Perhaps the presence felt during the terror came from beyond the sky. The biology of sleep merges with the mythology of stars, creating a narrative powerful enough to reshape lives. Astronomers, meanwhile, observe the heavens with different eyes. They see not demons or abductors, but vast processes. Nuclear furnaces in distant suns, galaxies colliding, black holes bending light. Yet even in science there remains awe, a kind of reverent fear. The cosmos is too large, too mysterious, to be held fully by reason. In that immensity, the human brain responds with the same mixture of wonder and unease that it does in the moments of terror within. So the night becomes a stage with two dimensions. Inside, the nervous system can stumble, generating storms of fear. Outside, the universe looms, a canvas for the imagination. Together, they blur the boundary between biology and mystery. Your body trembles in its bed while your mind reaches outward, trying to anchor the fear to something greater than yourself. Understanding this does not strip away meaning. Instead, it enriches it. To know that night terrors arise from a misstep in sleep cycles is to glimpse the fragility of your own inner machinery. To know that cultures turn those fears into myths of stars is to see how human imagination seeks coherence. Both truths coexist, the physiological and the poetic. And so you rest beneath the weight of two immensities, the fragile circuits of your brain and the endless galaxies above. Both can startle you awake, both can leave you trembling, both can remind you of how small you are in the face of forces beyond control. Yet both also connect you to something larger, the shared experience of humanity, the timeless gaze at the night sky. And as fear softens into wonder, you realize that the same darkness that breeds terrors also opens your eyes to the stars, leading you toward the final question of what mystery and meaning truly remain in the space between them. The night teaches you that reality is never as solid as it seems. A moment ago, you were dreaming of voices, weight, and presence. Now you wake, reassured that it was only sleep. And yet the feelings remain. The pounding heart, the certainty of being touched by something beyond yourself. It is in this fragile space between dream and daylight that mystery and meaning intertwine. Science explains much. Sleep paralysis is the body's protective stillness. Hypnagogic visions are the brain's flickering light show. Night terrors are the nervous system's sudden alarms. Each experience can be traced to neurons, chemicals, and circuits. The explanations are careful, grounded, steadying. They tell you that your body is not betraying you, but following its own complex rhythm. And yet, to live through these moments is to know that explanation is not the whole story. You feel more than science can measure. Fear, awe, and wonder fill the silence. They are not illusions, even if their origins are biological. They are real because they are lived. A shadow in the corner may be only a projection of the mind, but the chill it sends through your body is truth in its own way. This duality, biology on one side, story on the other, is what makes the human experience of the night so profound. Your neurons fire and your culture supplies the meaning. Across centuries, the same sensations have been given countless names. Demons, witches, spirits, aliens. The language shifts, but the core remains the same. Each generation interprets the unknown with the tools it has. Perhaps the real beauty lies not in choosing one explanation over the other, but in recognizing how they coexist. The science grounds you, the story connects you. Together they form a bridge between body and belief. When you acknowledge both, you honor the full truth of what it means to be human, a creature of nerves and of narratives, of circuits and of myths. Meaning arises not only from facts, but also from the way you hold them. A sleep paralysis episode may terrify, but it may also awaken curiosity about the brain's complexity. A story of night visitors may unsettle, yet it may also inspire reflection about vulnerability and connection. What you choose to take from these experiences becomes part of your own meaning. The night, then, is not just a space of fear, but also a teacher. It shows you the edges of control, where your body carries you without your consent. It shows you the power of imagination, how quickly shadows can transform into figures, and it shows you the human impulse to search for pattern, to turn fragments of sensation into stories of angels or abductors. These lessons remind you of both your fragility and your creativity. The stars above deepen this reflection. To lie awake in the aftermath of a night terror is to look upward and wonder. The same brain that misfires with fear also imagines galaxies, constructs telescopes, and writes myths. The same neurons that paralyze you at night also let you tell stories of cosmic visitors. Within you lies both the trembling child and the curious scientist, both the dreamer and the believer. What, then, is the meaning of it all? Perhaps it is not to decide whether the visitors were real, but to recognize what they reveal about you. They uncover your vulnerability, your longing, your awe at the vastness of existence. They remind you that life itself is lived in thresholds, between waking and sleeping, between fear and wonder, between explanation and mystery. You drift, then, not needing every answer. It is enough to know that your body speaks in biology and your mind replies in stories. It is enough to recognize that fear is part of being alive, and so is imagination. And it is enough to rest in the awareness that mystery, far from being an enemy, is a companion, one that walks with you through the night and into the day. And so, as you close your eyes, you carry both the science and the story, letting the mystery remain, not as a problem to be solved, but as a gentle space where your mind can rest. The night has carried you through thresholds, from the drifting edges of hypnagogic light, through the weight of paralysis, to the visitors shaped by shadow and story. You have walked the fragile line between body and imagination, between science and myth. Each chapter was not an ending, but a gentle unveiling of how your mind and nervous system weave experience into meaning. Now, as you rest, you may notice how different these experiences feel when softened by understanding. Fear becomes lighter when you see it as the body's way of protecting you. Shadows lose some of their edge when you recognize them as the mind's canvas. Even the stories of abduction and mystery can be seen not only as terror, but as testimony to the creativity of human memory. What once felt like haunting can begin to feel like reflection. Science gives you a map, showing how neurons fire and circuits misalign. But science does not erase the wonder. Instead, it reveals the astonishing complexity of the very system that creates dreams, fears, and myths. To know that your body generates both paralysis and poetry is to see yourself more fully, both fragile and profound. Meaning, in the end, is not about choosing certainty. It is about resting in the knowledge that both explanations and mysteries have a place. You're not only a body moving through sleep cycles, but also a storyteller reaching for connection across centuries of human night. The same patterns that frightened your ancestors still whisper in you, and the same stars they gazed upon still shine above. So you breathe deeply now, knowing you carry both the science and the story within. The night is no longer a space of fear, but of balance. Between shadow and understanding, between silence and meaning. You are safe in your body, safe in your bed, safe in the mystery itself.